Well, g'day, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world. This is actually going live to my YouTube channel, Boomer Press, as well as being recorded within this old software platform. I'm Ross Boundy, and I'm bringing you, well, it's not a daily Lenormand card spread reading, which is what I usually do in the morning. No, this is Boomer Press and helping, just share my time as far as working through some RaptorWrite writing and just having a play practice, moving through a particular book that I'm writing at the moment as a demo. And it's really not for, it's more just as a demo of that in the where I'm at with a particular book. So what I do is, I'm just trying to find the right screen that I'm needing to use, and I can't find it. There it is, hiding behind the others. Now, this is, I just sort of got to stagger this in a way that I can see what I'm doing, I think, and hoping that what we're doing as far as the screen share goes is the RaptorWrite. So I'll check that that's what it is. Yep, and it's showing up the full screen. It's not showing up just the particular book I want to do. So it is screen sharing. I've got to go. I had this trouble with it last time. It's doing funny things. Look, I'll just go with what I've got here. So put that down again. What we were up to was the chapter 5. So, that's actually, why is that way around? Oh, look, sometimes, yep, the technology gets to me. What we're up to, what we were doing was going through and validating each of the chapters that I've gotten to so far, and we'd gotten up to chapter 5. So I'm going to keep on moving through this. You can see here, chapter 4, I've worked through it, I've taken off that heading, and where I've done any of the adjustments, I would put the lines through it like it's showing there, okay? So we'd gotten up to chapter 5, so that's Council of Shadows. We're up to the Map of Whispers. So going back up here, the method that I'm using is I take all of that out. It's just doing that. And we read through it and validate what we've got here. And I will save them for the moment. So the cell beneath Loomgard Castle smelled of damp stone and old despair. Naira Shadowmere sat cross-legged on the narrow cot, her dark eyes fixed on the iron-banded door with the patience of someone who'd spent years learning to wait for opportunity. Her leather vest bore the scuffs and stains of rooftop escapes and midnight ventures, and though the guards had taken her obvious weapons, she still moved with the coiled readiness of a viper. 3 days she'd been here, 3 days since they'd dragged her from the Gilded Swan Tavern where she'd been negotiating the sale of a certain parchment to certain interested parties. 3 days of stale bread and questioning by increasingly desperate officials who seemed to think she'd simply hand over her prize out of patriotic duty. They understood nothing about the Thieves' Guild Code or the price of information or what happened to those who gave away valuable secrets for free. The sound of multiple footsteps echoed down the stone corridor, accompanied by the jingle of keys and hushed conversation. Naira remained perfectly still as the door swung open to reveal High Seer Thalen, flanked by 2 castle guards. Behind them lurked a figure she didn't recognise, young, dark-haired, wearing fine clothes that sat awkwardly on his frame like borrowed feathers. I don't know that I like that one. Sat awkwardly on his frame like borrowed feathers. That's a bit weird. I'm just going to go like this and we'll strike through so I know to come back to that. Okay. Because I'm going to try putting this one. I will put this one through AutoCrit later once it's all completed to get the more developmental editing thing happening. I'm going to give that a go because I'm learning all the time. So here we are. Already told your Chancellor everything I'm willing to tell, Naira replied without moving. The map piece is real, it's mine by right of acquisition, and my price stands firm. 50,000 gold crowns and safe passage to Westport. Oh, I think I forgot this one. Miss Shadowmere, Thalen said, his ancient voice carrying an authority that even thieves respected. We need to talk. Okay. All right, yes. So there's Thalen. Thalen, yes, that's correct. So, already told the Chancellor, just read that. Yeah, that's fine. Circumstances have changed. The High Seer stepped into the cell, his white robes seeming to glow in the dim torchlight. The kingdom can no longer afford to bargain for what we desperately need. Naira's eyes flicked to the young man behind him. Something about the stranger set her nerves on edge. Not danger exactly, but a sense of barely contained energy like standing too close to a lightning rod during a storm. And who's this? Your new negotiator? No, I don't like that. I'm just going to take that M- out. And something about the stranger set her nerves on edge. Not danger exactly, but a sense of barely contained energy. Like standing too close to a lightning rod during a storm. And who's this? Your new negotiator? Ah, Caelan Ashworth, the young man said, stepping forward, despite the guard's obvious nervousness. Guards. The oracle's chosen. We're to be companions on this quest. Companions, Naira laughed, but the sound held no humour. Is that what they're calling conscription these days? I'm going to put humour there in the UK spelling. Dana moved closer, and Naira caught the scent of parchment and ancient incense that clung to his robes. The eastern borders continue to collapse. Dragon sign has been spotted in the mountains. We have perhaps 8 weeks before the capital itself becomes untenable. Not my problem, Naira said, though something in the old man's tone made her stomach tighten. She'd heard the rumours, seen the refugees streaming into the city like a human tide. But rumours were just stories until they came for you personally. I'm going to change this to human river. I don't like tide. It becomes your problem when the dragons wake fully, Caelan said quietly, when the cities burn and the roads run red. Where will you run then, Naira Shadowmere? What will gold buy when there's no one left to trade with? She studied his face, noting the sincerity there and beneath it. A flicker of something that reminded her of flame dancing behind glass. Pretty words from a stable boy playing at heroics. Now, oh, that's interesting. I've got to look back at this. Pretty words from a stable boy. How did she know that he was a stable boy? How did she know? Did she know? I'm going to have to look back at that. Okay. Because I haven't been doing this constantly, it needs to be that sense of continuity, like as in me doing it more often than just once a week. And the fact that I missed out last week because of whatever reason it was. Yeah, interesting. I'm just going to put this there and in brackets in italic. Check on dev for stable boy. Why did she know this here and now? I think I've got hiccups now. Okay, so we're there. So the stable boy didn't choose this, Caelan replied, and for a moment golden light seemed to dance around his fingertips before fading. But the choice has been made for all of us. Help us, and perhaps we all survive. Refuse, and we all burn together. Naira felt her carefully maintained composure crack slightly. That, that brief display of power had been real. Mm. The amount of M dashes, I'm going to have to change the prompt, I think, for the coming up. That brief display of power had been real. She'd spent enough time around charlatans and hedge wizards to know the difference. Whatever else this young man might be, he wasn't entirely human anymore. The map piece, Thalen said, his voice taking on the weight of prophecy. How did you truly acquire it? Despite herself, Naira's hand moved instinctively to her sleeve, where the precious parchment rested in a hidden pocket lined with silk. The guards had searched her 3 times, but missed the guild's most basic concealment techniques. Same way I acquire everything, she said, carefully. The guild doesn't trade in artefacts that old, Thalen pressed. The magical resonance alone would burn through most thieves' fingers. You're not most thieves. Why is that asking for a spelling there? I don't know. How do you spell artifacts? Is there a spelling factor here? Okay, that's not within RaptorWrite itself. And I might need to go to my perplexity. Oh, look, I'll do all that stuff in the... well, it won't be here. I'll do that in... yep. The space I'm going to take it to when I do a develop, edit type of thing. Now I can't remember the name of it. You get the drift anyway. It'll pop up then. All right. The observation hit closer to home than Naira cared to admit. The map fragment had indeed burned her. She burned when she first touched it. Okay, a searing pain that should have left her scarred, but instead seemed to awaken something sleeping in her blood. Shadow touched, the guildmasters had whispered when they thought she couldn't hear, one of the old bloodlines. So my grandfather was a scholar, she said finally, and the words dragged from some deep place she'd kept locked for years. Before the purges, before the guild found me on the streets, he left things, hidden things. Okay. Hey, I'll call you back. I'm online, okay?
What?
I'm online right now, live. Okay, I'll call you back.
Yeah, righto.
Bye. Getting things not right. Okay, sometimes things interfere with technology, don't they? So my grandfather was a scholar, she said finally, the words dragged from some deep place she'd kept locked for years before the purges. Oh, I'd read that. So understanding dawned in Thalen's ancient eyes. The Star Weaver line, I should have seen it sooner. Don't know what you're talking about, Naira lied, but her voice lacked conviction. The name stirred memories she'd spent years burying. A gentle man with ink-stained fingers who spoke of ancient lore and far places, who'd vanished one night when she was 7 years old. Your companion Mirren shares that bloodline, Thalen said softly. Perhaps that's why the oracle's design brought you both to this moment. The revelation hit Naira like a physical blow. Family. After all these years of believing herself alone in the world, the possibility of connection, even distant, even dangerous, threatened to crack the careful walls she'd built around her heart. The map, Kalen said, his voice gentler now, if it's truly part of the lost cartographer's work, it could lead us to the crystal orb, to salvation for everyone. Naira closed her eyes, feeling the weight of decision settling on her shoulders like a mantle she'd never wanted to wear. The smart play was to stick to her demands, extract maximum value from these desperate nobles, and disappear into the chaos when the kingdom finally fell. She'd survived worse by trusting no one and looking out for herself first. But the memory of her grandfather's face whispered of different choices, of duty that transcended personal survival. And deep in her bones, she felt the pull of something larger than herself. A current, I'm just going to do that, I don't like the M dashes, a current that might sweep her to destruction or carry her toward the destiny she'd never dared imagine. She slowly reached into her sleeve and withdrew the map fragment. The parchment seemed to glow within a light, its ancient symbols shifting like living things across the surface. Both Thalen and Kaelin drew sharp breaths at the sight of it. Well then, Naira said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands, I suppose we have a kingdom to save. Okay, so that's that one. Now that's chapter 5. And I think in the Scrivener, where I've been pasting them into, I have got that all there and in that exact way. But what I'm going to do is adjust that later. I'm going to go Control A, copy. Let's go across. I'm going to go Control A. I'm going to delete all that and go like that and copy that across as it is. And does it hold that formatting? Yes, that's what I wanted. So where I've got that strike through, at least it's carrying forward and I can go and be triggered to looking that up later. Okay, but I want it in the Scrivener just for now because that's where I'm going to use this reference as my downloaded material to put into a different AI model that's going to show. Now I've just got to go and find where I'm at here in the background and show the that shows up that. No, I don't want that. I'll go back to the Scrivener. I'm going to put this into a different AI model, whether it's AutoCrit or whether it's just straight into the ChatGPT and do it as its own reference as a GPT and use this so that I can, so far, when I get to the full bit and use that as the load up into AutoCrit. Look, there's so many different ways to do things and I'm exploring them just the same as you are. Okay, so we're there with what we've got as chapter 5. Now I'm going to chapter 6. And here I've already got the Oathbound here. I've copied it across, so we'll see how it goes to read through this and make any changes. I might still change what is the Scrivener copy of it. I don't know that yet, so we'll just see. It depends on how much is changed, you know, that I note and mark up anyway. Armory. Now, I don't know whether that's a U. I'm going to take it that it might be just before we go there, because then I don't have to interrupt the flow that I'm going through. Okay, now chapter 6, the Oathbound. So the Temple of Vows stood at the heart of Lumengard like a crown jewel of white marble and soaring spires. Built in the earliest days of the kingdom, its walls had witnessed the oaths of kings and the prayers of commoners, its sacred flames burning uninterrupted for 3 centuries. But as the 4 companions approached its steps in the pre-dawn darkness, the temple seemed smaller somehow. Get rid of that. Diminished by the enormity of what they were about to undertake. Kaelin pulled his new cloak tighter against the morning chill, still uncomfortable in the fine gear the Royal Armoury had provided. Beside him, Naira moved like a shadow-giving form, her leather armour, armour blackened to absorb light, and her blackened to absorb light. Oh, that's interesting. I'm not sure what that's. Her leather armour blackened to absorb light. Let's just have a look at that. And her weapons arranged with the precision of someone who expected to need them quickly. The map fragment rested in a specially crafted case at her belt, its presence a constant weight against her hip. Now, I don't know why it would be shifted. Specially crafted case at her belt. I'm going to do that there, and in the italics, why would this need to be shifted to a case? Wasn't it safe enough in the hidden section of her sleeve. Okay, now I'm going to just do this without the strike through. It's just italics. Okay. So Sir Brian Ironhold cut an imposing figure despite his years of exile. His mail had been mended and polished until it gleamed, and though his surcoat bore no noble house colours, the sword at his side sang of quality steel and master craftsmanship. His weathered face remained impassive, but Caelan caught the way his eyes lingered and on the temple's war memorials, monuments to battles fought and companions lost. Merrin Starweaver brought up their small procession, her scholar's robes replaced by practical travelling gear that somehow still managed to look elegant. Books and scrolls filled her pack alongside more mundane supplies, and her staff, carved from some dark wood and topped with a crystal that pulsed with inner light. Gee, these M-dashes, certainly every paragraph there seems to be one. Anyway, that's something to put in the prompting. Need to remember that for next time I go through one of these. So books and scrolls filled her pack alongside more mundane supplies, and her staff, carved from some dark wood and topped with a crystal that pulsed with inner light, marked her as a wielder of considerable power. When she'd been introduced to Naira the previous evening, the recognition between them had been immediate and complex, like mirrors reflecting shadows neither fully understood. High Seer Thalen waited for them at the temple's heart, where 7 pillars surrounded an altar of black stone that seemed to drink the light from the sacred flames. Here, thrummed with power accumulated over centuries of prayer and sacrifice, making Caelan's newly awakened abilities stir restlessly beneath his skin. Before we begin, Thalen said, his voice echoing in the vaulted space, know that the oaths spoken here bind more than words. They reach into the soul and forge connections that death itself struggles to break. Once sworn, you four become more than companions. You become pieces of a greater whole. Naira shifted uncomfortably. What exactly does that mean? It means your fates intertwine, Merrin answered, her scholarly voice precise. Success or failure, life or death, what befalls one touches all. What befalls one, right? What befalls one touches all. The magic of the binding ensures that betrayal becomes impossible and loyalty flows deeper than blood. Convenient, Brian observed dryly. Makes it harder for someone to sell the others out for personal gain. The comment hit its mark. Naira's jaw tightened, but she said nothing. Her reputation preceded her, and they all knew the stories of thieves who honoured contracts only as long as better offers didn't materialise. Okay. The comment hit its mark. I've just got to get this into my head as far as how this sounds. So her reputation preceded her, and they all knew the stories of thieves who honoured contracts only as long as better offers didn't materialise. I'm just going to put a comma in there. It might come up differently in AutoCrit. I'm not using Pro Writing Aid with this one, I don't think. Which I do have, by the way. The ceremony requires a token from each participant, Thalen continued, producing 4 small silver cups from the altar, something of personal significance freely given. Caelan reached into his pouch and withdrew a worn horseshoe nail, the last thing he'd crafted in the castle forge before his life changed forever. It clinked softly as he dropped it into the first cup. Brian hesitated, then drew a silver ring from his little finger. My father's signet, he said quietly, all that remains of my family's honour. The ring caught the firelight as it fell. Merrin added a piece of crystallised ink from her writing desk, the tool of her scholarly trade transformed into something precious through years of use. It landed with barely a whisper. And all eyes turned to Naira. She stood frozen, one hand moving instinctively to her throat where a thin chain disappeared beneath her leathers. Whatever hung there was hidden, but Kaylin could see the struggle playing out across her features. I don't, she began, then stopped. Her fingers found the chain, following it to a small pendant that caught the light as she drew it forth. A simple silver locket tarnished with age. It was my grandfather's, the only thing I have left of him. Is that? Did I do that right? She drew it forth, a simple locket. Oh, yeah. The locket fell into the final cup with a sound like a bell tolling. Thalen began to chant in the old tongue, words that seemed to bypass the ear and speak directly to the soul. The tokens in the cups began to glow, their radiance growing until the four companions were bathed in silver light. Kaylin felt something shift inside him, not his own power, but the presence of the others, as if doors had opened in rooms he hadn't known existed. By flame and stone, Thalen intoned, by the weight of need and the hope of salvation, I bind these four as one. Let their strengths become shared, their purposes aligned, their fates entwined until the quest's end. The light pulsed once, blindingly bright, then faded, but the connection remained, a subtle awareness of the others that felt like having three new senses. Kaylin could feel Nora's wariness, Brian's grim determination, and Merrin's scholarly excitement tinged with fear, and underneath it all a golden thread that seemed to pull them eastward toward destiny. I'm leaving that M dash that's in that one just because I think it's probably one that could stay there. It's done, Thalen said, his voice heavy with exhaustion. You are the orb seekers now, bound by magic older than this kingdom. May you find what was lost, and may the road rise to meet you. Sounds like an old Irish greeting, that one. Brian tested the weight of his sword, as if ensuring the binding hadn't changed its balance. When do we leave? Dawn, Merrin replied, consulting a scroll covered in astronomical calculations. The stars favour eastward travel for the next 3 days. After that, she shrugged, we'll be beyond the reach of easy auguries. Okay. Nora touched the empty space where her locket had rested, her expression unreadable. The map shows the first landmark in the Bramblewild. 2 days hard riding if the roads stay clear. They won't, Brian said with the certainty of experience. Refugees, bandits, possibly worse. We'll be lucky to make it in 3. As they filed out of the temple, Kaylin caught Merrin's arm gently. The binding, will it really prevent betrayal? The scholar's smile was wan. It makes betrayal painful, but human will can overcome almost any magic if the stakes are high enough. She glanced toward Nora's retreating figure. We'll have to trust that shared purpose proves stronger than personal survival. The first light of dawn was breaking over Lurmengard's walls as the 4 companions made their final preparations. Horses waited in the castle yard, sturdy beasts selected for endurance rather than show. I'm going to change that. Don't like that M dash. Sturdy beasts selected for endurance rather than show. Supplies had been packed with military efficiency. Food for a week. I'm just going to take that out too. Why there's so much of that type of punctuation, I don't know. Food is AI. Food for a week, medical kit, rope, tools and weapons enough to equip a small army. King Ulrich himself came to see them off, his crown absent, but his bearing still regal in the growing light. I wish I could offer you more than desperate hope, he told them, but desperate hope is all any of us have left. It's enough, Your Majesty, Kaylin replied, though his voice trembled slightly. We'll find the crystal orb, we'll bring it home. See that you do, the king said quietly, for all our sakes. The king. I'm not sure whether that's supposed to have a capital K. Kings of Lurmengard opened with a grinding of ancient mechanisms, revealing the eastward road that stretched toward the rising sun. Beyond lay the bramble wild, the cursed forest where their quest would truly begin. As the four riders passed beneath the iron portcullis, Naira pulled alongside Caelan, still having second thoughts about trusting a thief. Caelan studied her face, seeing past the cynical mask to the uncertainty beneath. The binding let him feel her conflict, duty warring with self-preservation, hope struggling against years of learned distrust. "We're all thieves now," he said finally, "stealing time from fate, hope from despair. The only question is whether we steal enough." Laura's laugh held genuine warmth for the first time since he'd met her. "Well then, partner, let's go rob the gods." Behind them, Lumengarde's bells began to toll the morning hour. Ahead lay the wild lands where dragons stirred and ancient magics waited to test four souls bound by silver light and desperate necessity. I'm running out of breath. The orb seekers rode east toward legend, carrying the weight of a kingdom's survival on their shoulders and the fragile hope that sometimes, when everything depends on it, even the most unlikely heroes can change the world. Yeah, it sort of sounds all right, so I'm going to copy that and we'll put that here in the Scrivener. Copy and paste that. It shows up at, oh God. I am going to immediately change that to I hate Times New Roman, so it's Helvetica. And we'll see what that is going to give us. Did that copy across? Yeah. I'm just going to change that to Helvetica as well. I just really hate Times New Roman. Yep. Okay, so we're there to the Oathbound. And I think that's where we'll leave it tonight. That's chapter 7. And that is where we're up to into the Bramble Wild in Raptor. Oh, chapter 7. How did I get, what's that? Chapter 7. Oh, chapter 7 is here. So we haven't done that yet in RaptorWrite. So I'm going to leave that there. I'll save it. And we'll move up. So that at the moment's going to be where we leave it for tonight. We can go on with this next week with more of the actual production of some more chapters, because it's going to be a healthy space and time to revisit that so it can refresh your mind on how it's done. And then we'll just keep going on it. That's what I'll be doing. So thanks for joining me, and we'll see you next week.